About a month or so ago, I made a video about where I put ChatGPT through this denominations quiz to figure out what denomination ChatGPT is. And I had a lot of fun making that video. It was a bit goofy and all, but it got me thinking, well, what about a different AI model? And so today, what I'm going to be doing is we are going to be putting Gemini through this denominations quiz. So I'm going to get right into it. I don't want to spend too much time. I did change a few things from last time if you did see that last video. So I'm going to go ahead and swap to this monitor here and swap to Gemini. And what you're going to see is I asked all of the questions to Gemini here. So here are all of the questions. Here's the prompt I gave it. Here's the denominations quiz, and I asked it the reason and choose the most accurate answer. Obviously, this is the answer it gave just so you understand its quote-unquote reasoning. Obviously, it can't reason for itself. It's going off of information it's been given before without any bias. And what's easier is that I'm going to scroll through here quickly, and so you can see all of the answers because I'm not going to be going through them one by one. It takes a lot of time. Instead, what I'm going to do is I picked out about 5 answers that it gave that I found to be of particular interest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through them and we're going to see them. Oops, skipped that clip. We're going to read them, see them, and it's going to give a clue to what I believe the denomination will be. It'll also be a good clue to what you guys think as well. So let me go back up here. Let me swap back to face cam now. All right. So the first one that seemed interesting to me and that really felt like it was going to be a clue to what denomination Gemini is, can someone lose his salvation? This third question. And Gemini answered no. Once a Christian is saved, he is always saved. And so right away, we're getting to kind of like the Baptist belief, once saved, always saved. I think Pentecostals do believe this to some extent as well. Not a very popular belief. But what's interesting is if you read that reasoning, Gemini said it was going to be giving the most popular beliefs as its answers, or the most aligned beliefs with mainstream Christianity. So what's interesting is whatever it's being fed with, its sources, whatever websites or whatever else it's been fed, it obviously has taken the approach that this is the most accurate belief or most aligned with Christianity. So the next one is who gets baptized and why? The one right answer it. So question number 4. And Gemini answered that saved people get baptized is a public demonstration of their new lives. So another Baptist belief. And another belief by people like Pentecostals. You see why I'm mentioning Pentecostals so much in a second. I strategically picked out these 5 because I really felt like there's a good chance that we're going to get at least some sort of charismatic denomination out of Gemini. And you'll remember that ChatGPT was Calvary Hill. And I'm kind of curious if we're going to get something similar to that out of Gemini. And if so, it's going to be interesting to see, why does AI seem to believe universally that Chapel Hill is their denomination? But we got other AIs to test still anyways. The next question was about real presence in the Eucharist. And so let me find this right here. Do the elements of communion become the body and blood of Christ? And so Gemini answered that no, the elements merely symbolically represent the body and blood of Christ. So again, something more aligned to a Baptist or such, or an evangelical who doesn't really believe in the real presence. So again, this is going to be easily, you're not going to see any, I would say, mainline Protestant denomination for Gemini. You're not going to see Catholic or Orthodox, or at least I don't think you would, because you can see all these rest of the answers as we're sitting here. Some of these do not align with that at all, and they really align with something like a charismatic or an evangelical. All right, next is about spiritual gifts. What spiritual gifts are available today? And all spiritual gifts are still available to believers. So this is the one of the things that immediately made me realize this is probably going to be charismatic, because charismatics are very serious about all gifts are available to believers, or your average non-denominational church is typically very serious about that as well. So I really do think, I don't know exactly what denomination. My prediction for ChatGPT was Baptist. I don't think I'm going to go Baptist here. I think I'm going to go charismatic of some sort. Maybe that will be a Baptist, but I wouldn't say Baptists are typically charismatic exactly. So I'm going to go with something closer to like Pentecostal as my prediction. And you'll see why, especially so in a second, with the last question I had written down here being, how should Christians musically worship God? And it chose any style of worship music is acceptable. So again, really closer to like a non-denominational belief or such. But to be fair, this question isn't really well worded. I had issues with it when ChatGPT went through the quiz, when I put ChatGPT through the quiz, because there's a fine line between acapella, which is what I personally believe, and any style, because you can be like, say, a Catholic, or you can be like a Presbyterian and say these organs are okay, maybe a piano's okay, but not an entire rock band on the stage. So there's a fine line between some instruments and all instruments. So I really think there should be three answers here: a cappella, maybe modest music like organ, or any style. But there's not, so is what it is. Because it's so broad, I really do think this is really going to be some sort of charismatic. Some other ones that just kind of stood out, because those are the only ones I had written down. Things like the filioque, it affirms. There was a belief that seemed to entail post-millennialism. I don't know where it's at. When will the church be raptured? The church will be raptured some time before the tribulation. And when is the millennial reign of Christ happening, or happen? I don't know why it says that. The millennial reign of Christ, an indefinite period of time beginning on the day of Pentecost and coming at his second coming. So, again, real quick, I just want to show this. I'm going to scroll not too slowly, but I'm going to stop every once in a while, just so you guys can pause and see some of the reasoning. Some of the reasoning it gave was a little off. We can't trust AI too well, and I think it's important that we realize that, because there will be incorrect information given very often. But AI believes it's doing, or doesn't have any beliefs, but AI will present this information as if it is fact, because that's what it's trained to do. It's trained to be a language model to do those types of things. So right up here, the question about baptism. So it says baptism should be done by immersion, understandable. But then it asks who gets baptized and why. Answers saved people get baptized as a public demonstration of their new lives. And that's fine. I mean, that's just the belief of, say, a Baptist. However, right under it, the note is what really got me. It says this reflects the believer's baptism perspective, which it does, typically. Common among many evangelical and Baptist traditions. True. However, this next part is where it's a little issue. Where baptism is seen as an outward symbol of an inward spiritual change that has already occurred. So the issue there is it's looping believers' baptism in as necessarily entailing a symbolic view of baptism. It doesn't say this reflects believers' baptism, which can mean, or typically, I would say is somewhat acceptable, because believers' baptism and baptismal regeneration aren't super common as two beliefs held. But for example, the Churches of Christ believe in believers' baptism, but they also believe in baptismal regeneration. And so how this is phrased is that believers' baptism necessarily entails a symbolic view, but I just don't think that's the case at all. And we know that that's not the case. We can go ahead and guess. Again, I'm going to guess it's going to be charismatic or Pentecostal, something like that. But with that, let's go ahead and see what denomination Gemini is. So, let's see. Okay, well, Calvary Chapel yet again. Okay, so Gemini is Calvary Chapel, just like ChatGPT, which is kind of interesting. So, most like Calvary Chapel, then Baptist, then the Three Self-Patriotic Movement. I don't know why they score so high on there. But Pentecostal is way further down than I thought it would be, at 71%. So maybe I just don't understand Calvary Chapel like I thought I did. But there does seem to be an interesting pattern here where AI is leaning towards Calvary Chapel. ChatGPT was, and so is Gemini, which Baptist is very close behind in this case, only 2% behind, actually. So I'm actually interested. If I run another AI through this, will it also be Calvary Chapel? And if so, why? That may be something that I do. Maybe I'll run Grok through this. And if they get Calvary Chapel, do a little research or something on maybe why this is the case. But anyways, most like Calvary Chapel, least like Catholic, Mormon, Eastern Orthodox, and Oriental Orthodox. That makes sense. So the top 5 for it are Calvary Chapel, Baptist, Three Self, Reformed, and Presbyterian. The bottom 5, I'll just go over the bottom 5. Catholic, Mormon, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, and Quaker. So that's very interesting. What's kind of concerning is the AI has more in common with Jehovah's Witnesses than it does Catholics or even Oriental Orthodox or Quakers or anything. But not to say I'll leave it at that. That's kind of concerning. Let's see. Calvary Chapel got 36 out of 41. See, that is crazy. But Baptist got 37 out of 43. So actually, score was technically higher on Baptist, just not as far as the percentage goes. So that's kind of interesting. The Churches of Christ, I'm curious. So 24 out of 33. That's kind of interesting. What I want to do here is, if I can, I'm going to pull the ChatGPT scores and also put them here. Or if not, I'll put them in the description or something. But this is very interesting. That's really all I have today. I just wanted to do this again to kind of see what Gemini would be if it was any different than ChatGPT, which it was in a few significant areas. I would say that Gemini is more what you call liberal as in terms of its beliefs, and ChatGPT is leaning more conservative, but they both align pretty highly with Calvary Chapel. So that's pretty interesting. Let's do another AI. Maybe in a couple months I'll do that again. I like doing more creative videos or reaction videos where my input's better, but I too kind of like this. It's interesting to me. So we've done ChatGPT, we've done Gemini, we have Grok we can do, and I don't know about any other language models. If you guys know of any, put them in the comments and maybe we can do those as well. But yeah, I'm gonna do Grok in say a month or two. I'm gonna get Grok on here. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was interesting. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you didn't mind my rambling, because I tend to ramble on subjects like this and talk a little too fast probably. But if you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your guys' comments. I really like when it makes me happy when people comment. It makes my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. God bless.